Defeated Arizona Republican gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake has filed suit in Arizona Superior Court challenging the certification of the state's election. Lake, who has also amplified former President Donald Trump's lies about the 2020 election, makes numerous claims in the 70-page suit, including that printer failures at some polling places disenfranchised voters in Maricopa County, creating a debacle in the county. As CNN has previously reported, Maricopa officials have said that printer problems affected about 70 vote centers, preventing some ballots from being read by tabulator machines on Election Day. But that the problems were fixed and that those ballots were set aside in a secure ballot box and counted separately. Bill Gates, the Republican chairman of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, called the inconvenience and the long lines that resulted unfortunate in one Twitter video, but said that every voter had an opportunity to cast a vote on Election Day. Among other concerns, Lake also cites long lines and criticizes the use of mail-in ballots in the suit. Accordingly, Lake is entitled to an order setting aside the election in its entirety and ordering a new election, Lake's attorneys write in the suit. The suit also asks the court for an order setting aside the certified result of the 2022 Arizona gubernatorial election and declaring that Kari Lake is the winner of the 2022 gubernatorial election. Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs, who defeated Lake to become governor-elect, is named in the suit in her capacity as Secretary of State and is one of several defendants. Kari Lake needs attention like a fish needs water, and independent experts and local election officials of both parties have made clear that this was a safe, secure, and fair election, Hobbs said, calling the filing baseless and a nuisance lawsuit. Lake has questioned the integrity of the results since she lost last month's election. Arizona certified the election on Monday. It was not immediately clear what impact the challenge would have. All four GOP nominees that were at the top of the Arizona ticket had echoed Trump's lies about the 2020 election. Arizona was a key 2022 battleground for governor and Senate, and likely will be again for president in 2024. Leading Democratic figures, including former President Barack Obama, warned that the GOP's embrace of Trump's election falsehoods and conspiracy theories could put democracy at risk if they were to sweep to power. The former news anchor at Fox 10 in Phoenix was one of the most prominent candidates in the 2022 cycle as she and Hobbs vied to replace term-limited Republican Gov. Doug Ducey. Last month, Ducey said he had met with Hobbs following her election win, adding that he will work to make this transition as smooth and seamless as possible. All of us have waited patiently for the democratic process to play out, Ducey said in a statement at the time. The people of Arizona have spoken, their votes have been counted, and we respect their decision. This story has been updated with additional details.
The self-proclaimed kingdom that doesn't recognize Germany. In the depths of the countryside in eastern Germany, there's an invisible border. The turrets of an imposing castle loom out of the treetops. Peter I, as he prefers to be known, receives us in a rather gloomy wood-paneled hall. He's what's known in Germany as a Reichsbürger, one of an estimated 21,000 people who are defined by the country's intelligence agencies as conspiracy theorists who don't recognize the legitimacy of the post-war German state. They've risen to prominence this week, with the arrest of 25 people in raids on Reichsbürger suspected of plotting to storm the German parliament building, the Reichstag, in a violent overthrow of the government. King Peter says he has no such violent intentions. But he does believe the German state to be destructive and sick. I have no interest in being part of this fascist and satanic system, he says. We settle in another room to talk, on plush armchairs under a glittering chandelier. But this is no salon. We're surrounded by lights and cameras. He felt, he said, that he had no choice but to found his kingdom, having tried, unsuccessfully, to run as a mayor and a member of the German parliament. People who are corrupt, criminal, or willing to be used thrive in the German system, and those with an honest heart, who want to change the world for the better, in the interests of the common good, don't have a chance. His real name is Peter Fitzek, and his activities have brought him into frequent conflict with the German law. Germany doesn't recognize the kingdom or its documents. Mr. Fitzek has several convictions for driving without a license and running his own health insurance program. He also went to prison for several years for embezzling his citizens' money, but the conviction was later quashed. The Regional Intelligence Service, which has been watching him and his kingdom for nearly 2 years, told us they regarded it as a threat. They liken it to a cult which exposes people to conspiracy theories and extremist ideology. Such theories and ideology have proliferated in Germany in recent years, fueled by the pandemic. And COVID-19 appears to have increased support and membership of the kingdom. Mr. Fitzek tells us he has about 5,000 citizens. He's expanding the kingdom, buying up land in Germany in order to set up a number of communities in which those people can ultimately live. We visited one such outpost about 150 miles away from the king's castle. Ancient trees surround the site of another old castle in the village of Barwald, an hour-and-a-half's drive south of Berlin. Around 30 people live on the site, either in the main building or caravans which scatter the lawn along the main driveway. Despite the faded beauty of the castle, it's a bleak place. They're still renovating the buildings and clearing the grounds. Tree trunks still grow through the skeleton of an old greenhouse. But the people here are proud of their home, which they also consider it to be kingdom territory. The kingdom can provide everything that you need in daily life. Food and nourishment, social security, all these systems are there, says Benjamin, who recently moved in with his young family and is responsible for PR. For all their plans to build a sustainable green community, using modern technologies, citizens appear to have little faith in modern medicine. No one here is vaccinated against COVID-19, Benjamin told me. It's a common position for Reichsbürger, many of whom joined protests against measures to control the pandemic. People who think for themselves today will often be condemned as conspiracy theorists, says Benjamin. But it's a fact that these are often the people who stay up at night thinking about problems, not just their own but those of society and politics. As we left the commune and drove back through the village, a neighbor was standing on his front lawn. When I asked what he thought of his neighbors, he frowned. They should pay tax, he said. After all, they still access Germany's resources. But what worried him the most, he added, were his own children. What kind of influence will this lot have on them? For many years, Reichsbürger were a bit of a national joke. Germany is learning to take them seriously. Investigators, cleanup crews begin scouring oil pipeline spill in Kansas. A heavy odor of oil hung in the air, according to a Reuters witness, as tractor-trailers ferried generators, lighting and ground mats to a muddy site. Federal investigators were at the scene trying to help determine what caused a leak of some 14,000 barrels of oil from Western Canada, an official said. Pipeline operator TC Energy on Friday said it was evaluating plans to restart the line, which carries 622,000 barrels of oil per day to U.S. refineries and export hubs. It did not provide details of the breach or when a restart could begin. The outage could affect oil inventories at the Cushing, Oklahoma, storage hub and cut crude supplies to refining centers in the central U.S. and Gulf Coast, analysts said. We're beginning to get a better sense of the cleanup efforts that will need to be undertaken in the longer term, said Kellen Ashford, spokesperson for the EPA Region 7, which includes Kansas. Environmental specialists labored in near-freezing temperatures and crews set up equipment to allow operations to continue for days. TC Energy aims to restart on Saturday a pipeline segment that sends oil to Illinois, and another portion that brings oil to Cushing on December 20th, Bloomberg News reported, citing sources. Reuters has not verified those details. This is the third spill of several thousand barrels of crude on the pipeline since it opened in 2010. A previous Keystone spill had caused the pipeline to remain shut for about 2 weeks. TC Energy remained on site with around 100 workers leading the cleanup and containment efforts, and the EPA was providing oversight and monitoring, Ashford said. TC is responsible for determining the cause of the leak. U.S. regulator Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Administration said the company shut the pipeline 7 minutes after receiving a leak detection alarm. The affected segment, 36 inches in diameter, was Keystone's Phase 2 extension to Cushing built in 2011. Washington County, a rural area of about 5,500 people, is about 200 miles northwest of Kansas City. The spill has not threatened the local water supply or forced local residents to evacuate, Washington County Emergency Management Coordinator Randy Hubbard told Reuters. Workers quickly set up a containment area to restrict oil that had spilled into a creek from flowing downstream. There is no human consumption drinking water that would come out of this, Hubbard said. Livestock producers in the area have been notified and have taken their own corrective measure to protect their animals, he added. The EPA is the main federal agency that oversees inland oil spills. If the EPA finds TC Energy liable for the spill, the company would be responsible for the cost of cleanup and repairing any harm to the environment, as well as potential civil and criminal penalties. Pipeline operators are typically held accountable for breaches by the EPA through the Clean Water Act and the related Oil Pollution Act, among others, according to Zygmunt Plater, an environmental law professor at Boston College Law School. Those federal acts restrict the discharge of pollutants such as oil into waterways and hold pipeline operators responsible for the costs associated with containment, cleanup, and damages from spills. A lengthy shutdown of the pipeline could also lead to Canadian crude getting bottlenecked in Alberta and drive prices at the Hardisty storage hub lower, although price reaction on Friday was muted. Western Canada Select, the benchmark Canadian heavy grade, for December delivery last traded at a discount of $27.70 per barrel to the U.S. crude futures benchmark, according to a Calgary-based broker. On Thursday, December WCS traded as low as $33.50 under U.S. crude, before settling at around a $28.45 discount. PHMSA has to approve the restart of the line. Even once the pipeline starts operating again, the affected area will have to flow at reduced rates pending PHMSA approval. The real impact could come if Keystone faces any pressure restrictions from PHMSA, even after the pipeline is allowed to resume operations, said Ryan Saxton, head of oil data at Wood Mackenzie.